Hi guys, Christy here with Just Saying. Let's make a card. Today is the start of my 14 weeks of Christmas. This is the card that I've started with today. It is blues and silver. There's some heat embossing that gives me the shiny star, and I'm ready to show you this card. Except for this one's actually missing a little embellishment. I'll fix that later. So to get started with this card, I'm going to start with the Christmas star from Stampin' Up, and heat emboss this onto some Whisper White cardstock. To do that, using Versamark gives me a sticky base to stamp. Looking for my, almost forgot. I have everything ready to go except for my embossing buddy. This just gets rubbed on cardstock, gets rid of any static or moisture that might be on the card that will also attract any of the embossing powder. So now that that's down, I can do more. Didn't quite get all of the cardstock. Stamp my star. I get a good impression of this ink, just to make sure I get all the middle. The middle is where I usually miss on these big stamps. Put that aside. I'm going to use I have this labeled as Fine Line Silver. I have no idea the manufacturer, anything. I just know that it's silver and it's fine. I have another one labeled silver, and it is, can you see the difference there? This one is a very glittery kind, and this one just goes down to nothing. So that's what I'm using today. So a piece of scrap will help me get this all back into the jar with minimal mess. Dump that on there. I always use too much, but I get a good coverage. Tap off the extra and make sure there's good coverage. Set that aside for just a sec. Now the task of getting all of this powder into the jar. Now if I was doing multiples of these cards, I would reuse this piece of paper, but I don't use it again as scrap because I can never get all of the powder out. And this is the last card I'm making of this style, so it's going right into the recycling. Put the lid back on. Next up is to set this. I'm going to use my heat embossing tool. I didn't prepare this card. I didn't prepare the parts of the card in advance, so I apologize. You're going to hear my embossing gun working here. I'm just going to warm it up a bit. I feel it on my arm to make sure that it gets nice and hot. And I've watched other videos doing this from behind. And you just wait for the cardstock to warm up, and there you can see, it's a bit too close. You can see the heat take effect. I might just do it from the beginning. I can't see it properly, so I'm just going to go from the top. And done. Stick that cord back. And there's no framelit or die for this card, or this stamp, so I'm just going to use my long sharp scissors and quickly just trim. simple triangle shapes is very easy to cut out. Okay, so that is the biggest part of this card. The rest of it is going to be assembly. I'm using Smokey Slate cardstock, which I have cut at what is that? 5.5 by 8.25, scored it, or 8.5 scored at 4.25. What I've actually done is scored it a little bit off. So I'm going to fold it, press, and then use my bone folder, which will get rid of any of the previously scored option line that I did. Now I'm using an old Stampin' Up! Designer Series paper. I'm kind of using a this is 2 or 3 years ago paper. I've had it for so long. I love it. I love these grays and blues in this one, but I need to start using it up. And I've cut these both to be my layering width, and that is 5.25, but I know that when I do this it'll be too long, so I'm just going to trim it down a bit. So what I'm going to do is first adhere this small one, and I'm cheating. I'll show you what I'm doing in just a second. Because this Designer Series paper is paper versus cardstock, it doesn't give me a lot of strength when I want to wrap my ribbon around it. So I'm just going to line these up here at the corner. These are going to be, this paper is going to be hidden by the time I'm done. So that is a perfect fit. And I want this one, so I'm going to adhere this side. I don't need to do all the way to the top. This is about 1/2 inch too long, and once I've adhered it, I'll trim down the excess. I didn't want to have to do the math, and there were some 1/8 involved, so I just figured mount it on the paper, cut off the excess, and nobody's going to know the difference. So this one I want to be at 4.25. No, I don't. I want it to be at 4. So I'm lining up my edge here that I've trimmed and cutting off the excess. Now with this one, to hide the seam of the 2 pieces of paper, I'm just going to put a line of snail, a little bit of Whisper White satin ribbon. This is the second card I'm making with this one. I love how flat this will tie. I haven't used it, but I've been looking forward to. So that's just going to hide the front of the seam there. And now, taping all 4 sides, I can fold over my excess. And I like to try to get a little bit of adhesive on whatever I folded back. And this is going to go in the front of the card, obviously. Lining it up. There we go. Next up, I'm going to stamp my image, or my greeting. This is from a set called Delightful Decorations. Just going to stamp Island Indigo on the cardstock. Good. And then cutting out this circle, I'm using the 1-inch punch, lining it up fairly centered. And then I'm going to take a scrap also of Island Indigo cardstock and using the 1.25 punch, I'm just going to punch that one out. And I can adhere the 2 of these together. This card's going to be fairly flat. It's going to be an easy one for mailing. So I'm just going to pop up this extra little bit here. Not the whole star. That would take, I think, too many dimensionals to give it a good effect without some sagging. And using my thumb, just giving myself a crease to lift off the backing. And I'm going to set that aside. This is dangerous. I'm going to set that aside without getting it stuck to anything. I'm going to use snail on my star piece. And this star is about a perfect fit, so I'm just going to line up a corner at the bottom and a corner at the side. At the bottom and at the side. And then my top will fit as well. Alright, there's that. Now, to the sentiment, I figured to add a little more glitter, not that the star is not glittery enough. I'm going to use a metallic silver thread, and on my original, there's a lot of thread in here. I'm not sure if you can see it, but when you have it in person, you can. I've used a lot. I find that I like to use a lot just so that you get the actual benefit of using some of this silver thread. So I'm going to take the end and wrap it around 2 fingers 3 times, then 3 fingers 3 times, and then 4 fingers 3 times, and snip the edge. I'm being sneaky, and I'm going to take all of my bits here and adhere them to the dimensionals. And that still leaves enough dimensional adhesion. Haha, there's a word. Okay, almost done. I'm going to use this. My cover says these are brads. These aren't brads. These are sequins and snowflakes that I'm just going to add for a little extra glitter to the card. I'm looking for, see, I said I had everything laid out and ready to go. I cannot find my silicone mat. Found it. Everything is within arm's reach. Love the silicone mat. I just worked on my finished card, just finished putting that together, and I've got a little bit of crystal effects here in the corner because inevitably I end up squeezing out just a little too much. But when this is dry, I can just peel it off the silicone mat and throw it in the garbage. So I'm just going to shake out a couple. I'm going to get some snowflakes, dab it into the crystal effects, and stick it down. Now that almost blends right in, so what I thought I would do is just add some sequins to the top of that. Just covering that up a little bit. I might use a small one next time. Actually, I might just use a small one now. Woohoo! Dab, stick. Crystal Effects does dry shiny, so I'm just trying to be as careful as I can to try to get that only where I want it. Like on the tips of my fingers, anywhere that it shouldn't be. Oops, like that. And down here. A little bit more. And things are generally pleasing to the eye if you've got 3 of something. So there's my 2 snowflakes and sequins. I'm going to add a third one, I think, in the top left corner. And a little small sequins again. Oop, need some crystal effects. There we are. Alright, there is the completed card. And the original tucked over here in the corner. Well, I've got my crystal effects wet. Here we go. Just let's fix up this one. This one hadn't quite dried and it had popped itself off. So we'll just stick it there. There we go. Alright, this is the first of my 14 weeks of Christmas cards. I hope to see you next week and that you enjoyed watching this one. Thank you.